Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. Rebel, rebel, moon in the sky.
First movie of the year, Tom.
I know, Dave. It's very special. It's a special movie.
It's really special, guys. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Rebel Moon, a ballad of songbirds
Part
and
1,
snakes.
A Child of Fire.
I was close.
Yeah, you were close.
Yeah. God. Hi.
Hi.
When I found you in the wreckage of that ship, I considered leaving you. I was afraid you could bring trouble to us.
All right. So this is on the Netflix. This is Zachary Snyder's first of a two-part, and the second part there is a trailer for it. So like they made it. It
already
movie.
exists. Yeah, it's coming out in April. So
this is a $166 million film that it did last like a few weeks at number one on Netflix, but that's about it.
It's
did
impossible
not get good reviews.
to tell with Netflix movies. Yeah, universally not well liked by.
Yeah, I would argue even the audience scores aren't great. That's saying a lot for Zack Snyder. You know, where he has like a fan base,
pretty devoted vocal fan base. So you would think the opposite would be true.
Right. It's still not. It's not wowing everybody, and I can see why. Tom, how did you like this movie?
It's not very good, Dave.
It's not very good. Fun fact about this movie, Tom. I got fun trivia for you.
Sure.
There is nothing interesting about this movie.
Nothing happens.
Nothing happens. It is.
It's putting the team together montage for 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours, yeah.
We're still introducing characters.
Team.
No, we don't. We're still introducing characters in like the last half hour almost.
Yes, it is.
And then we don't learn anything about any of them ever. Who was that prince guy? The Beastmaster. He rides a griffin. We meet this character because he's being held prisoner to pay off a debt. And this rancher asks him to tame this griffin if he can ride this griffin. So he does. And it's like a 5 or 6 minute sequence of, it's like the Avatar scene where he learns how to fly.
It is exactly like the Avatar scene, Tom. This movie is... we've said this before, but I've never seen a movie that felt more like an algorithm.
The point is we never learn anything else about him. And he's just standing there for the rest of the movie. And then in the last scene, Ed Skrein, the bad guy, reveals that guy's like some kind of prince and is a very wanted man.
Right.
It's like, I was watching this with my brother. We're like, he's a fucking prince.
Right. And it's like, are we supposed to care about? Are we supposed to care about this guy?
No, this movie is that lady who's like the Witcher who kills that spider lady. And she's I'll join your team.
Yeah, for some reason. Nobody is interesting. The main character, the only way we learn anything about her is multiple flashbacks where she just monologues her backstory. Mm-hmm. Like she literally just by a fire is like, so here's my whole backstory. And I'm like, wow, couldn't think of a better way to do this, huh? And then later she's like, so as I was saying,
no,
and just goes into more.
As I was saying about my tragic backstory. Yeah, this movie is
mind-numbing.
It's so serious. Like, it's so self-serious.
So here's
what it... Anyway, sorry.
Oh, no, you go.
It's... Like, Star Wars takes itself pretty seriously, too, but there's I don't want to say camp, but there's
charisma.
charisma, and there's kind of a drive-in feel to Star Wars. You get that genre feel from it, where everybody, you kind of, it's that first movie particularly where it's like you can see how low the budget is, so they're really trying to throw things together to make it look like it's this crazy alternate world in space. So it has, this has none of that. Like, it's so serious. And
this movie is... It's so boring that there's nothing... Like, this review of it is boring. Meaning that I wrote all these notes, and I looked at the reviews, and the reviews are just exactly what my notes are. It is so incredibly bland and derivative. There was a review that put it really well that was saying it's like it's Star Wars but without the charm parts. It's Guardian of the Galaxy without the character work. It's Dune without like the interesting story. Like, it's trying to be all these things very obviously. Like, it felt to me like a parody film without the jokes. What I mean by that is, like, it almost was beat for beat, felt like it's like not another sci-fi movie.
You can clock the plot almost to the events of that first Star Wars movie. Like, okay, here's where Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru get killed, except here it's Corey Stoll getting beaten to death with a leg bone.
Right. Here's the humble farmer, but it's got a little of everything, because it's also
Mos Eisley. Yeah, it's also a lot of Dune.
It's a lot of Lord of the Rings. They're like, here's the Shire. We're going to go to this place to... They do... The Han Solo scene is also the Aragorn scene, where it's like we seek them out in the place. It's all the same beats from everything you've seen, even the part where it briefly just does Avatar. So again, it felt like a parody movie, like the same structure a parody movie would do, right? Where it would cram in all these bits from different movies, only it's doing it completely serious. And it's taking all those parts and then having nothing interesting about it. So, like, I know we've said this a lot, but it really feels like AI art. Like, it feels like it was an algorithm that took a bunch of things, including the name, Rebel Moon, Star Wars. Yeah. Like, it's and then A Child of Fire feels like they're like, we got to get that Hunger Games in there. We got to make it sound like a Hunger Games. Like, it feels so rhythmically created that it has all of these, like, very, like, intricately put together derivative moments without an ounce of charisma. And so it just feels so computer generated. Through and through.
Yeah. I have some positive things to say about this movie.
That's good, because I have nothing.
Okay.
There's nothing redeemable for me.
I was thanking my lucky stars for Ed Skrein, because...
Who is that?
He's the bad guy.
Oh, yeah, he's just fine.
He was like the oasis in this movie for me every time, because he's a lot like... It's not the same type of it's not the same performance, but he reminded me of Eddie Redmayne in Jupiter Ascending. Is that what it's called?
Which is a better film. Yeah, Jupiter Ascending.
Jupiter Ascending is a better film. It's still not a good film, but it is a better film than this.
And so that's the thing. At least Jupiter Ascending is interesting in its failure, right?
Yes.
Like, it takes big swings. This
takes
is so
huge swings.
There's nothing you haven't seen before in this movie. For the most part.
Yeah. So anyway, his performance is such that it's a little Alan Rickman from Prince of Thieves-y. Like, he's going over the top with it. So I was happy every time he was on screen. I was like, at least thank God here's somebody who's interesting to watch. And it's not a dig against the actors. It's the characters are so thinly written. It's like to the point that we meet this one character, General Titus, who's supposed to be kind of like the Obi-Wan. It's Jimon Hansu. He's a big name actor, very famous. He's in Guardians of the Galaxy, in fact.
Right, he's quite good in that.
Yeah, and after they recruit him, after we have the scene where we need you now more than ever, General Titus, and he's like, no, I'm drunk and a failure. It's like, no, you got to clean yourself up. Fine. They recruit this wizened old general to come lead them, and then he doesn't speak for the next half hour. He just stands in the background of all of these scenes as they go introduce more characters. So most of the characters get introduced and then don't do anything.
Yeah, it reminds me of when I playing Baldur's Gate, where I got a new character and I'm like, oh, I don't actually want to use this companion, and I just bench them. It feels like that. They just keep benching. They collect people and then they bench
them. Yeah.
Yeah. For no reason. Like I don't remember them doing much at the end.
They don't do anything.
I don't know why there needed to be an ensemble except for an algorithm that would say like ensembles are popular. Make it an ensemble. Like that's again, it feels like they did it because that's a popular thing to do.
Well, I think that's more deliberate. Like that's a Star Wars thing. That's a Lord of the Rings thing. Like they're all ensembles.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah. I'm saying they did it because that's
they did
what
it.
You do.
Right. They did it because Star Wars did it. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't have an interesting idea for what to do with an ensemble. They just did it because you have to have an ensemble.
Yeah. Ray Fisher is the leader of these rebel mercenaries that they go across the galaxy to recruit. I mean, we're going to spoil this movie, so spoilers.
Well, yeah. There's not much to spoil, but yeah.
But he dies. He dies pretty quickly without having done too much. Like he brings down a big ship, but like we barely. They talk about him the whole movie.
He does the Mad Max, the Fury Road shot.
He does the Mad Max thing, yeah.
And then I remember I wrote that down where I was like, I don't care about this guy.
Right, we don't ever
care about his sacrifice.
They talk him up the whole movie, and then we meet him, and he immediately dies. Like we never get to know who he was.
Right, and that'd be fine if that was the point, but they seem to treat it like we're supposed to care about his death.
Yeah, the whole movie is kind of like that. But I said I was going to say nice things. So the first nice thing was the villain. I think the villain is very fun.
Yeah, mind you, the look of the villain it couldn't be more. It's space Nazis. He's such a point.
Yeah, yeah. I like that he has those little freaks with him, the little Dune freaks that follow him around.
Yeah,
and hold his bone for him.
For the most part, they're still like very aesthetically uninteresting or conceptually because it's like we've seen space Nazis many times.
Yes,
I liked that he had a cane that he bashed people's heads in. That was probably the most interesting thing.
It was a leg bone. Yeah, that was cool. And I think they're all derivative, but at least the visuals kind of look pretty. You know, like, this is like cool and spacey and stuff, but they were so derivative that it was still kind of tough to get like to appreciate the imagination of it. But there's some cool visuals in it if that's all you're looking for. It's
lit too dark, I would say.
In a lot of spots. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But it is good. Yeah, it's good, I guess, visual concepts because they're just other things taken from other movies. Like, that's the thing that's wild to me is that...
just real quick, I loved the Metroid. The little Squidbilly Metroid that was controlling that guy's brain in the bar.
Oh, yeah, that looked cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, sure, that's derivative, but like, that's cool. And it looked cool. And he's kind of a scumbag. And when the shooting starts, it scuttles away very hilariously. I think it's the only genuine time I laughed during the movie was that guy.
Yes, that was pretty fun.
But to be clear, they don't actually attempt very many jokes at all. Like, this movie is so serious,
it's extremely serious. I don't know why.
Because I mean, Dune is very serious, but at least Dune has an interesting story.
Yes. It starts with a voiceover that my brain immediately blocked out. I tried so hard to listen to what they were talking about, the mother world. Yeah, and I immediately was like, nope, I don't care what this is. And there's so much of that throughout where you look at a movie like Star Wars, the movie A New Hope, that it is trying to be. It is very clearly trying to be. When does Star Wars have a narration of someone going, so this is what's happening? It doesn't, because it just shows you.
Yeah, it just shows you. Yep. And this visual medium.
Yeah, again, like the backstory, the main character's back. I wrote it down. She literally says to the character, I was taught that love is weakness, and I don't know how that will ever change. And I was like, great. Yeah, that's such a, like, what a easy way to show, like, yeah, if all the characters just said what they felt, yeah, it's easy to give them arcs.
I want to related to that. The biggest, I guess, twist in the movie is Charlie Hunnam betrays them. He's Han Solo if Han Solo was evil. Yeah. And they telegraph it, but you kind of don't notice it because the whole movie is written sort of badly, because it's a scene where he announces that I'm going to help you guys. You've decided watching you recruit these rebels has made me realize that I should stop my life of thieving, like my life of crime, and leave that behind and have honor again and believe in something again. And you kind of buy it in the scene because as you just pointed out, every character in this movie just says what their motivation is.
Yes.
They just say it. So it didn't flag me as odd that he was speaking like I'm only lightly paraphrasing. It's pretty close to how he says it.
Right.
So I didn't flag it as like, oh, this guy's going to betray them. Like, it's weird that he would just suddenly decide to join their team, but it wasn't out of line with the way literally every other character we've met has been written. So I didn't flag it as being unusual. So the betrayal actually kind of surprised me.
Right, because I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. But then again, nothing makes sense. Nobody is making sense.
Exactly. Like, everybody just agreed to join her probably hopeless fight against the Empire.
I'm really... I'm like, I think I said before, I enjoyed the Zack Snyder Justice League, his cut, the Snyder cut.
It was
the 4 hour long.
The better version of that movie, to be sure.
And there was a like a sliver of possibility in this mind. I was like, maybe I'd like this if this is like a big space epic. I like Lord of the Rings. I like Dune. You know, I like serious epics. This made me like genuinely concerned for Zack Snyder on a creative level, where I'm like, this was it. This was him like from the mind of Zack Snyder. This is it. We're giving you everything. Yeah, and it was so lazy. Like, it was one of the laziest, most boring fucking movies. To the like, there was no attention to detail. There was no like it at first, when it first started with the big Mother World stuff, I was like, at least this is going to be like a fully realized world. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's going to be like someone's D&D campaign. But it more feels like he was saying, I want to do a Star Wars. Look, I can make this two movie long series to show that I can do a Star Wars. That's all this feels like to me, because it does not feel like it was made with any consideration or any like love. It doesn't feel like it was made with love. Like, it doesn't feel like he enjoyed making this movie.
It doesn't really feel like this story means much to anybody.
No, it doesn't. It feels so cynical.
It's barely a story.
The beginning, it starts with them as farmers, right?
Yeah.
And they keep saying, someone literally says, "We are but humble farmers" at one point. I want to point out,
it's Corey Stoll.
Yes. And I point this out because not a single character in this place looks like a fucking farmer. Everybody is young. I don't think I saw like a single like old ragged person. Nobody was dirty. Our main character has like an LA haircut, like this beautiful haircut, and looks like a fucking model. They all look like models with beautiful haircuts, and they're like, "We are but farmers on this land." It's like, really? Like, because you look like models. You realize that, right?
When she's bringing her himbo around.
Right, and it's like
Steven from Hill House. She's like, he's a humble farmer. Yeah, she's like, he's just a farmer. It's like, he's a hot farmer.
Right, like, do you have a stylist on this fucking planet of farmers?
Because you both look gorgeous. Yeah.
Right, compared to anything else, compared to Star Wars, compared to Lord of the Rings and the Shire. Like, there's this attention to detail and this love put into those worlds, building those worlds, that's just not here in this movie at all. And that to me, that either means he didn't try because he didn't care, or I'm like, man, the limit of your imagination is not very big. Like, it's just like surely you can do better than this. I've seen him do better than this.
Yes, he has made good movies.
Yeah, he has made movies with attention to detail.
Yeah,
that is better than this.
Yeah,
this is
true.
So fucking lazy. I can't believe how fucking this movie is. It's leaving my mind as I talk about it. Like, it's impossible to remember.
Man, it's paced so crazily. Like, it's Zack Snyder with full, with his full druthers. I assume, like, nobody's breathing down his neck to cut this to be a certain length, even though I know he is releasing like R-rated director's cut versions of this, so maybe there was a compromise involved.
I think there's that theory where it's like they saw what happened with the Snyder cut, so they're purposefully trying to drum up that hype. But for that to work, there needs to be something. The Snyder cut, the whole thing was that Joss Whedon famously, butted in. And so it's like there's no reason, there's no hype here. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I don't want to see another minute of this movie.
I mean, I'm going to have to watch part 2.
I'm not. I'm absolutely
I'll
not
let you know
watching
what
part
happened.
2. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to call it lazy, but I guess the stuff about the attention to detail is certainly
I don't think this was shot on any sets. I think it's almost all green screen. I think that's
a whole lot of it is.
Yeah, it feels like such a test. It felt like it almost feels like Zack Snyder being like, what are the limits to what my fan base can stand? Let me whip together this 2-part film to test it. Because it just doesn't, it really doesn't seem like there's much here.
It's just so derivative. Is its biggest problem, I think, is
Yes.
it's even the cool visuals, even the cool stuff that we're saying is mostly kind of borrowed from other things, or at least clearly directly inspired by popular pieces of media. It's like, well, this is clearly Star Wars.
Yeah, it's derivative, and there's just very little nuance to anything. The villains, they literally are dressed like Nazis.
Yes.
They don't even I wouldn't have been surprised if there was a swastika, because they're just like Nazis in Star Wars, right? But they're like space Nazis. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They have a little bit of a space.
Is just straight up dressed like a Nazi in this.
In this, they literally look like period piece Nazis.
The only thing missing is the swastika.
Yes.
Just about.
And so the complete lack of subtlety, where they come down on the planet at the beginning, and there's the soldiers, and the soldiers are just unhinged.
They're maniacs.
Where in a way where you're like, I don't know how this army survived, how it didn't eat itself alive, if they're all like this. The guy is shooting at the helper robot, and
he's
screaming at him, and threatening to kill his own soldiers, and it's like, I get it, they're bad, but they're bad to such an extent that it's it's cartoonish. And then, of course, the good guys are good in a very cartoonish way, because it's of course. To the point that it's when the folks are like, we'll farm so well that the Nazis will have to keep us. It's like, do you not see everything that's happening? It's so silly because there's no nuance. There's just such a very clear moral line.
I think that idea could have worked if they lean into it more. Maybe it does in the sequel, but the idea, I feel like he's borrowing. We'll have to check with Robert on this, but I feel like he's borrowing a lot from Warhammer as well. The way the ship travels is Warhammer. I think what little we hear about kind of the hierarchy or the nature of the empire is that they move from world to world, just consuming everything, like they're space locusts.
Yes.
You could have worked with the idea of just this is it's not just that like an evil emperor or something. It's just this totally depraved system of royalty in play. That could be interesting, because that's basically what it is in Warhammer, to my understanding. But he kind of it's weirdly feels small in scope. Did you get that sense?
Oh yeah.
Even though we see a bunch of planets, it's felt, I guess, because nobody does anything. We're just we're constantly introducing characters, so it feels like nothing really ever gets going. So it doesn't. I don't get a sense of really living in this world, really, because we're just moving through it so quickly.
Yeah, the first act is
we're not moving through it quickly because this movie takes its sweet fucking time. You could delete probably 20 minutes of it.
100%.
So what I meant to say was it moves through it moves through all the important stuff quickly. It doesn't dwell on the characters. It doesn't dwell on the things that you would want to. It dwells on these droning monologues and these he's blowing himself with the slow motion, man. It's so, I know it's part of his style. It seems so random when he deploys it.
Yeah, I want to talk about the action in this, because the action, I got to this point where I was like, maybe the action will at least be interesting. It is not.
It's not.
I already mentioned there's a shot straight from Fury Road. It is, even the action is as derivative as it gets. Every action scene, from what I can tell, at least the first couple, everything slows down, someone slides on the floor and shoots some people. And that is pretty much it. It was so incredibly uninspiring. It is just your standard, like as standard as action could possibly get. It's like,
yeah.
There's nothing like the way this is shot again feels so incredibly. Was this made during the pandemic? Is there any reason why it is so fucking lazy of a movie? And
he's directed better action, like the opening of Dawn of the Dead.
Yes,
like
he's made better things. Whether or not you like Zack Snyder, he's better than this, and that makes me so baffled by how committed they are to this story, which is like the whole story. You're right. Nothing happens. It's small because the first act is space Nazis come down. They're obviously bad. And they say, you have to make this food for us and we're going to slaughter you all. Bye. And then the special boy, which in this place is this lady with she was a stormtrooper, which is basically this, from Force Awakens. And she's like, I'm going to go on this trip to, I guess, recruit people to then come back and fight them. Is that the idea?
Yeah, she's recruiting. It's kind of the Magnificent Seven.
Right. I say that with a question mark because we never come back and fight. Like the movie ends somewhere else. And so it's like, the problem is with that is like, there's an implication that they're going to come back and finally fight. Right. But that's such low stakes to have two movies based off it, which is we're going to recruit people to defend this one village from space Nazis. I assume they're going to topple their whole regime by the end, don't get me wrong, but that's all that they don't even do that in this film. They don't even defend the village in this film, which is like one of the most like basic things. So, like that felt like that was going to happen at the halfway point, and it takes the whole movie for them to not do that thing.
Yeah, it takes to get back to the village. It takes the whole
right.
movie.
So it's so small because it's one guy kind of talking about a larger kingdom that we never see, who they defeat. They defeat. He gets Darth Vader. Essentially, he gets revived, but like that's it. They just like I don't know. They barely do anything.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Remember the robot splashes water on his face to cool down?
He's washing shit off his face.
Okay. that makes some sense, I guess. That made me laugh a lot because he looked like he was like doing it like someone would to cool down or like to de-stress.
Just to reset.
And I was like, what the fuck is this robot doing? That robot to me. Yeah, Robo Hopkins, who is an R2D2, like, or a C3PO rather, like his name is like letters and numbers. And he is just a gray blank robot. Like that robot really is a microcosm for this, which is like, he just looks like generic robot. Like there's nothing special. There's nothing original about him. He's just, I am blank robot man. And that's it.
He runs off. He shoots one of the evil soldiers.
Right.
Because space is full of rapists. Let me tell you, there's at least 2 attempted assaults in this movie.
Right, which this movie did not earn in any way, shape, or form. I think I want to be clear to people: don't watch this movie. I don't think people should watch this movie. I think there's some upsetting scenes, not graphic but upsetting, and then otherwise it's incredibly dull. So it just didn't seem worth it to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the robot shoots the guy and then runs off into the
and then he
woods
runs
to be
off,
radicalized.
and we don't see him again.
Yeah, and I assume at the end we see him with like antlers.
Yeah, we see him at the end. Yeah, he's gone full like Colonel Kurtz.
It was
like
the most interesting character. Yeah, Gunner, which is the himbo.
That's the himbo.
He sucks so much. I don't know why he was in this. He's the guy who's like, I think we should work with the space Nazis, and then the space Nazis. Kill what's his name, Beardy.
Corey Stoll. And then he's like, I'll go with you. And he seems like he's supposed to be the Luke Skywalker, like the character who's like naive, but he's not the main character. No.
And he doesn't do much in this movie. He just sort of observes our main character, who is also can do no wrong. She has nothing. She's good at everything right away. So it's just every fight scene, I'm like, gee, I wonder what's going to happen. Oh, yeah, she killed them all. Like, that's it. That's every fight scene.
Yeah, pretty much.
It has the makings of, like, something a little kid made. Like a kid who just watched Star Wars who wants to make their own thing, and they just make sort of Star Wars again, but with very little nuance
Star
and with
Wars
no character
as
arcs.
well.
Yeah. But instead, like, his characters are cool all the time and have no reason to, like, grow or do anything.
Yeah, man. What a shame. What a shame.
I don't know. It is a shame in the sense that it's a waste of everybody's time. It's a waste of our time. It's a waste of the Zack Snyder's time. It's a waste of all the actors' time. I just don't know how a movie like this... I don't know how this gets made without. So I mean, it's that feeling of like, does he have no one around him to go like maybe do another pass? Because this feels very first drafty, where it's like you write it and then you go, and I'll add like the jokes and the charisma in the next pass. I'm just writing like the who, what, and where and how. Like that's what it feels like.
Man, so much of the cast, I'm not even kidding, just stands in the background of other scenes.
Yeah.
With nothing to say or do. Like, we're introduced to Charlie Hunnam, and then he takes them to meet the prince, and then he doesn't speak for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know anything about the prince.
I forget who the fucking prince is.
He's the guy who tamed the griffin.
Oh, yeah,
And then we randomly hear at the end that he's some missing prince who's like an extremely wanted fugitive.
Maybe I missed this part. I don't know why they chose the people they chose. They meet Han Solo, and then he's like, I'll get you some people. Here's my ship, my iconic ship. This is my Millennium Falcon, and now we're going to go and recruit some people. And I don't know why he recruited the people he recruited, why those people decided to do...
He tells you why. It's because they're all extremely wanted fugitives.
Got it.
So he figured he figures it's like a Joker plan. Like so many things have to go exactly right for it to work. But he basically says, "Oh, I figured you would be able to rally enough people to your revolutionary cause, and then I'd just be able to capture all of them because these are all very valuable bounties."
Right. Okay. God damn.
Yep.
And then
it's
we
airtight,
didn't even
dude.
mention the villain is her quote unquote father. Mm-hmm. The first one, she's like, he's like a father to me. And again, it's like Star Wars, but they're like, what if we did that, but without the twist, and just made it that?
Well, her story is just Gamora's story.
Yeah, you're right.
Like the general came to her world, blew it up, but decided to adopt her, and then trained her to be like his greatest soldier.
And then there's like a real father twist at the end. Did I get that right? There's something with the father. I zoned the fuck out. She fights the guy on the platform, which felt very, again, Star Wars, where he and then he gets revived and goes into like this magical world to talk to Beardy.
Yeah.
And Beardy says something about being somebody's father, and I assumed it was her, but I can't for the life of me know because I did not bother to learn anyone's name.
This was one of those Cora.
Movies. Okay, this was one of those movies where I had the Wikipedia up so I could read the plot along with the movie because I needed everything.
It sounded like you were really struggling.
It was daring me to pay attention to it. This was so dull. This was a movie that if I saw this in theaters, if I was watching it at home, I know at about 50 minutes in, I wrote, this is when I would stop watching this movie. Like I would
It's the most
simply
Isley
shut
scene,
it off.
yeah.
Yeah, I would simply stop watching the movie and I would go about my life. Happy. I'd be happy, Tom.
I wouldn't have these memories.
Yeah. Well, I don't have the memories either way. I it's like a dream logic. I'm trying to figure out.
It's kind of washed over me. I did sort of enjoy that sequence, that first sequence where the bad guys show up and Corey Stoll and Himbo are kind of bickering over how to interact with them, and it was genuinely suspenseful because Ed Skrein's going to go fucking overboard and you're just waiting for it to happen and it keeps not happening. So that was a decent little little scene. I liked that.
I didn't mind that, but then
and it was right at the beginning. So yeah, it was right at the beginning. So it's like, oh, maybe this. Nope.
Right, because then the problem is that Corey Stoll, they're both idiots. Corey Stoll says, give them what they want, but don't reveal how fertile our land is. And that's fine, right? And then the Nazi comes and he's like, I want food. And Corey Stoll goes, nope, because our land isn't fertile. And it's like, that's not what you said to do.
Yeah.
You said give them what they want.
Give them everything. Yeah, give them what they want.
And so they don't, and he doesn't, he refuses. And then it's like, well, that wasn't the plan.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you got your brains bashed in. And then Himbo, who, again, I guess we're supposed to like. I didn't think we were supposed to like this guy.
Right, because it's kind of his fault that Corey Stoll gets killed, because he's
naive
up.
And sucks. Yeah,
he's naive. He thinks that telling the truth is better, but instead it just he winds up being essentially the reason that Corey Stoll is killed. So I get the feeling that that's the reason why he's going on the mission with our main character, because he feels bad about. But that's like never really made that clear.
Not really. And like I guess I do like that basic the concept, the argument between them. If it weren't for the fact that then when you meet the bad guys, you're like, why would anybody think they would be good?
Yeah.
Like,
why would you ever think they were reasonable? They're notorious.
Yeah. Where it's like if they like quietly killed people or made it, but it seems like there's no reason for anybody to haggle with them.
The voiceover, the Sir Anthony's voiceover at the beginning tells us that they're like they fly through the Stellarverse just terrorizing people.
Right.
Like people know they're evil.
Right. When that ship showed up, what should have happened is they all should have evacuated. Mm-hmm. And that's it. There, it's just like they're like a force of nature, where it's like run, hide. It's just weird because like nobody seems to react to them the way they clearly are in that scene. So like it is a good opening, but then it feels like ultimately it's silly when we meet the villains.
Yeah, the characters' decisions don't make any sense, but I enjoyed the suspense.
Yeah,
and it gives Himbo kind of an interesting motivation where it's like, oh, he fucked up pretty badly,
right?
And we're not sure if we like him. Actually, that's interesting for a character. It's just that it's him and her are really the only ones that we really spend any time with, and we still don't know much about him at all.
Right, and then we kind of bench them when we start recruiting people,
and then everybody gets pushed to the background as they recruit people.
The first act isn't great, but it at least 30 minutes in is when I clocked it. It's when we have her like a 5-minute flashback. And that flashback kind of marks when the movie officially is bad. Like at 30 minutes, it's like this could get better if it's just these two. Because at first I was like, why aren't they taking like spaceships? And I'm like, oh, I get it. They are but humble farmers, I guess. So they have to take these like dumb horses.
Horses with shit on their face. I love it.
Right.
I love when sci-fi does that.
Oh yeah.
Tape some goofy shit to that horse so it looks like it's from space.
Right. So I thought like, okay, a smaller scale movie of them on like bonding on this planet trying to find this general or something. Like I could see that potentially, like I could see how people might misunderstand this movie and assume it's a space epic, but it's actually a very, more intimate film on this desert or something, because that's kind of what Dune is, but then it just fucking loses its mind with the terrible flashbacks and
all
recruiting
of this,
and
it's so much monologuing. It really is.
It's a lot
really
of exposition. It's just people. I think that there's literally like the robot at one point like sits down and just goes, do you know the backstory of all this? And then explains it all again. Like they keep explaining everything because they're terrified of us not getting it. And that to me, that implies someone who's like, I would normally say like, oh, he should make a D&D campaign, not a movie. Except the backstory is so derivative and lazy that it's like, why do you even want us to know this backstory? Like you've spent like that whole flashback that she was found and turned into a Nazi and then ran away. She could just say in a few lines. Instead, we get 5 minutes of it. And it's like that's most of the movie's problem is it spends so much time explaining something that is just not that interesting or complex. It doesn't have to be explained for that long of a time. That's feels like most of the monologues and the flashbacks.
Yeah, it's almost comical at the end where the bad guy's rattling off. It's either the bad guy or Charlie Hunnam.
I don't know.
Rattling off what each fugitive is wanted for. I think it's the bad guy. And it started to get funny because it was like literally each person had a tragic backstory.
Right. And it's like, I don't, yeah,
It's
holy
like, are
fucking
all of
shit.
you Batman?
Yeah. Every single one of them.
You're all Batman, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
We got a team of Batmans, guys.
Yeah. Oh, fuck.
It gets funny. Like when you start just leaning
Not
so
funny
heavily
enough.
on these self-serious tropes. You're right. It's not funny enough.
No, that's the thing. If this was funny, if this was weird, that was one of the reviews also said it doesn't have like the weird charm of something like Jupiter Ascending. Like it has no redeeming.
It could have been a little
parts to it.
weirder. Yeah, like I like the aliens. You know, like I said, I like that little Metroid guy. You should have done more like that. do that stuff. It's a
Right.
space movie. Come on, have fun. Like you introduced us to a griffin, and then 2 scenes later there was a Spider Woman. Like there's no rules in this universe. You can do whatever you
Right.
want.
But again, it's not weird enough to be fun. It's not intricate or like detailed enough to be interesting. It's not original enough to keep your attention. It doesn't have any interesting characters. It has some good visuals. The action isn't good enough to rely on the action. It doesn't have anything to rest on. It's that you can like make
really
up for the
kinda
other
doesn't.
aspects of it.
Yeah, it really.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you enough of the good stuff to really
No.
recommend, unfortunately.
No, it is a gray square.
It was a slog.
Yeah.
There were bright spots, but not enough.
No. This movie is, as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, this movie gets no more of my time. I will not watch a sequel.
I'll watch part 2. I'll tell you what happens.
Nah. You tell me what happens. If you want a podcast
Will they
about it, you're
defend
gonna
the grain?
The
You'll have to
podcast-
find out.
Yeah, if we do a podcast, it'll be you telling me about the plot.
Let's do it.
Yeah, because I will not watch this.
I will,
I will not give
that'll
them
be
any
a very
more time.
special episode of We Just Watched. It'll be me explaining the movie to you.
Right.
Okay, so here's what happened.
Yeah. And I don't. The thing is, ultimately, I don't think anybody's really defending these movies. Like, I know, I'm sure there's some diehard Zack Snyder fans out there, but a lot of that, if you remember, was largely, I believe, astroturfed, right? Like it was bots and stuff. Like they admitted as much.
Yeah.
So like this stereotype of like the toxic Zack Snyder fan, I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm more saying that they don't exist any more than I think any other toxic fandom.
Yeah.
Like, I saw some reviews that kind of was like, unfortunately, the only people who would like this is the cult of Zack Snyder, and I'm like, I don't even know if there is a cult.
They're gonna, yeah.
I think maybe they were DC fans.
They're DC fans, I think, more than that.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't really actually experienced someone who is. I'm not saying they don't exist, but not in a huge capacity. So I don't know. Man.
The Owl movie is way better than this.
Oh my God, he made the Owl movie, didn't he?
The Guardians of Gahul.
Why is he still? Why? Who's giving him this money? Like, for better or for worse, he's made movies that I've been entertained by, but not because they're good. Like, I think the only movie that I've watched of his that I was like, that was really good, was Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think, is there any other one that I didn't enjoy?
I like 300. Fine.
See, 300 I only saw once, and to me it was fun, but that was one where it kind of, a lot of it was that it was the first time we had seen that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the novelty of it. It was really It was really dynamic at the time, I guess.
I do like his Justice League, but I also would watch
his
it too many
Watchmen
times. Oh yeah, his Watchmen was fun.
Was pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
It's once he started making those DC movies, man, it just
It started.
I don't know, like, because Army of the Dead also is not much. It should be fun, and it's not. Like,
You're
that
right.
That
Army
one's
of the
kind
Dead
of
is
trying
another-
to be fun, and could have been maybe. There's fun parts to it, but it's like this. There weren't enough of them, and it's This
Right.
this
There's
just
no
isn't.
need
This,
to rewatch that one.
yeah, this
you know?
this isn't fun to watch. This was not a fun movie to watch, and it should be. Your fucking Star Wars should be fun to watch.
Yeah, it felt like homework. It felt like I was in school watching an educational video
Yeah.
and trying to pay attention and take notes. This was
a lot of droning monologues. Yeah.
Yeah, my God. Yeah, so I can't recommend this movie.
No, it's a tough thing to recommend.
Yeah,
It's just pretty dull, unfortunately.
it's pretty dull. And I would apologize for this is how we're beginning the year, but honestly, it's January. This is how the year begins for movies. So maybe Night Swim will be better. That's what we're doing next week.
Night Swim?
Yeah, maybe that'll be better, Tom.
It probably will, right? There's no way
statistically it has to be better. Yes.
there's no way we could see two bad movies in a row.
No, of course not. That's impossible.
It's impossible.
I will say it's all uphill from here. It's all like or downhill. What's the phrase? Doesn't fucking matter. The bar can't be any lower. So as long as the next movie is entertaining in some amount of time, like in some way, as long as I don't feel like falling asleep during the next movie, I'll be good.
This one didn't put me to sleep. I won't say it was that bad. I don't think this was good. But
Right.
man,
This
oh, man.
almost put me to sleep, and I watched it in
I don't deny it, doubt it.
I watched it in like an office chair. I wasn't even relaxed watching it. It was like a form of torture. I did, for people wondering, when I told you this, Tom, when I hit the halfway point, when I was like, I will walk out of this movie, I had to watch it. So instead I put it at 1.5 speed, and it did not change much. Like, it's all very slow anyway. Mm-hmm. So I was scared because I'd never done that for a movie before. I don't believe in that. I was like, that's gross. 1.5 speed. Why would anybody watch a movie like that? And this, I was so thankful for it, for this movie. So thankful.
Bless this invention, yes.
It cut it down by like 15 minutes.
Yeah. Made the time pass a little more easily. I don't have anything else to say.
No, let's be done.
We can be done. Let's be done.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Listen, we have a Patreon. Patreon.com/gamefully unemployed. That's patreon.com/gamefully, GAMEFULLY unemployed. You go on there for just $5 a month. You get access to exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder's a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, Spiel Boys. We also do custom We Just Watched episodes that you can order from us. We also watch movies every Friday night with our patrons. That's all available on there, so check it out, patreon.com/gamefully unemployed.
We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store. We have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs. You get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of things. So slap your space peepers onto that.
Yeah, space. They're like regular peepers, but with a bunch of shit on them.
Mm-hmm. Just a bunch of shit glued to them.
Yeah, just a bunch of...
Stick some shit on that horse.
Yep, we're good to go. Glue some shit to its face.
Yeah, we're in space now. The power of imagination.